I want to be very clear. Life for the unvaccinated will be very difficult indefinitely.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
People who are incubators for every variant to come, walking around lawfully unvaccinated? That's psychotic.
Oh, get off of me! Get off! Let go of me, Beth. Doing? You're fucking choking me, dude! What the fuck?
For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death. For yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
About this, in a world of threats and tyrants, terror, you know what our biggest enemy is in America? Our fellow Americans.
They are the ones that are propagating this outbreak.
Being frustrated that there is still a percentage of the population who are not vaccinated.
I wish that he would go further to restrict the activities of the unvaccinated.
Oh, shit.
Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
If you're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy.
Well, you know, it's my rights. Okay. But I don't care.
Pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Well, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
Freedom not to follow the facts, even if your freedom kills people.
The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer.
Shouldn't they have to pay more into the system because they are collapsing our health system? They're the ones in the ERs.
So you basically see this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you get all these rights. If you are vaccinated,
that is what it is.
Yep. Yep.
It would be extremely careless and reckless if anybody welcomes someone who was, if you're vaccinated, I mean, I myself would not want to be anywhere with someone who's not vaccinated.
This is fucking Australia!
Patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
%30 of the population. It's only about 20 to 30% of the population who is really into a mass formation. And there is a substantial group, 60 to 70%, who just goes along with the masses. So who simply doesn't have the courage or chooses not to swim against the tide. But this first group, indeed, definitely doesn't want to wake up. And for that small group, and that's something very characteristic, that small group will continue to buy into the narrative, no matter how absurd the narrative becomes, and no matter how absurd the behavior becomes that is imposed by the narrative. And then that is simply, many people thought during the crisis, like, okay, now the measures go so absurd that people will wake up. And they always warned them, no, they won't wake up. Because to the contrary, if the measures become more absurd, they will be even more applauded, just simply because the measures and the narrative have the function, psychologically speaking, of a ritual. And the ritualistic behavior is always a kind of behavior that has no pragmatic purpose and that demands a sacrifice of the individual. A sacrifice through which the individual shows that its own individual interests are less important than the collective interests. That's ritualistic behavior. That's what ritualistic behavior always has been. And people in a mass formation crave, they need this ritualistic behavior because it strengthens their bond with the collective. It strengthens this collective, this feeling of collectivity. So once people are in the grip of that, indeed, they very often continue in the same direction until they radically self-destroy, until they radically destroy themselves. The only thing that can save them is when there are dissonant voices who continue to speak out. So that's just crucial. Once you understand the mechanism of mass formation, you understand that it is identical to hypnosis, and you understand, just like hypnosis, that it is always provoked by a voice, the voice of a leader of a mass. That's why totalitarian leaders, consciously or intuitively, feel, they know that their grip on the population is based on their voice. And that's why totalitarian leaders, much more than classical dictators, use indoctrination and propaganda. They also use terror, but that's much less important than indoctrination propaganda. So totalitarian leaders use indoctrination propaganda. They disseminate, they infuse their voice in the population constantly to keep the people in this situation, in this state of mass formation. And at the same time, once you understand that, you also understand how crucially important it is that the dissonant voices also continue to speak out, because the dissonant voice constantly disturbs the hypnotic state. It disturbs the mass formation. And that's something that was very well described in the 19th century by Gustave Le Bon, one of the first scholars who studied the phenomenon of mass formation. He said, when a mass emerges, there is typically a small group who is not in the grip of the mass formation, and that small group typically tries to show the people how absurd the narrative is, what they believe in. So they try to show the people, like, look, this narrative doesn't add up. And Gustave Le Bon said, the small group usually won't succeed in waking up the masses. That's almost impossible, because it's such a strong type of hypnosis. But he said, it's not because these people don't succeed in waking up the masses that they have no effect. They do have a very important effect. When these voices continue to speak out in a quiet way, they will typically prevent the mass formation to go so deep that the mass formation arrives in this end stage where the masses become convinced, and the leaders become convinced, that it is their ethical duty to destroy everyone who doesn't participate in this new solidarity, in this new citizenship. So that's the extremely important effect everyone has who continues to speak out and to go against the mainstream narrative during a mass formation. And history has shown us, time and time again, what happens when the resistance, or the people who resist the mass formation, when these people stop to speak out. That happened in 1930 in the Soviet Union, and in 1935 in Nazi Germany, and within a period of 6 months, the destruction campaigns started. That's here during the Corona crisis. I think there are many people who continue to speak out, and it could well be that it are exactly these people that made sure that the mass formation did not go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I hope that the same people, when it's needed, that they will continue to speak out, no matter how difficult it becomes.